I really hope that the audio works today. And if it doesn't work, if it's doing a little bit of popping, then just please, if you know what's going on, tell me. And if you don't know what's going on, just stick around. The popping stops after a bit. What's going on? I'm Matt Roman. I'm Dr. Roman, and we're doing one of our morning marble meetings now, which is our third time doing this. This is your daily talk to encourage you to be sober. I just had a cold fruit smoothie, so it makes me a little bit coffee in the morning, and I need to just probably not have these anymore if I'm going to be making these videos. But I got to get my protein, and I put protein powder in it, and it's my breakfast, so excuse me about that. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what the Marble program is. And basically, when my license was taken because of cannabis addiction, and I lost it, but I have it back now. But when I lost it, I had to go to rehab, and it was my first, no, it wasn't actually my first exposure, but it was a deep dive into Alcoholics Anonymous for me and Narcotics Anonymous, where I had to go to these meetings. And I realized that the whole industry of for sobriety and for addiction recovery is based around the 12-step program. And millions of people have had help from that. A lot of people have had help from that. So I don't want to discourage anybody from going to that, to those meetings. And in fact, I encourage going to AA meetings. I think those are very good. But I thought about how the 12 steps just didn't really vibe as well for me as it does with some other people. And at that time, I decided it would be a good idea for me personally to dive deep into Stoic philosophy. Because I had already read a little bit of Marcus Aurelius, his meditations, and I knew how powerful this stuff was. So it had already had an effect on me prior to that. And when I was in rehab, I knew that what it was teaching was very important for me at that time, both for my recovery as well as for my emotional control and for just coping with the difficulties I was going through. And so I decided I would start my own program eventually. Really, at that time, that was in 2019, I was thinking maybe one day I could start my own program that was based on Stoic philosophy. And I started thinking about it at that time. And a few years after that, I started to make an outline for it. And since the 12-step program has 12 steps, and you have to kind of go from one to the next one to the next one to the next one, for me, I struggled with step one. So really, it was hard for me to even begin the whole process. I couldn't even get to step two. And part of the problem was that step one was believing in a higher power. And at that time, I was very atheist. And I refused to believe in a higher power. And they were telling me how, my therapist then and my counselors were telling me how, well, a higher power doesn't need to mean God. It can mean whatever you want. And it can mean the doorknob on the door if it opens the door to recovery. And anyway, that stuff didn't really vibe well for me because I knew that they were just sort of trying to trick me or get around the whole higher power thing. And if you look at the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps, that whole process comes from Christian belief systems and organizations that were existing prior to Alcoholics Anonymous existing. So the roots were in Christianity. And Listen, I have nothing against Christianity, and I'm actually what I would consider a newborn Christian right now. But at that time, it just didn't vibe with me. And even if I could skip that first step about a higher power, there's like 4 or 5 other steps in there that were related to God. And so the whole thing just didn't vibe well. And I thought to myself, I could use my Stoic program as a secular program for people, one that doesn't require the existence of a God to those people. And I think we live in a secular society, which I don't think is a good thing, but it is the reality. And I think we need to create a program that is good for people and has nothing to do with religion. So Stoicism is that philosophy. Now, the Stoics did talk about God and being faithful to their lords, but they had like, the Stoics believed in like Saturn and Zeus and Poseidon and all that stuff. So they, Apollo, and they had their whole mythology going. It was very different from what it is today. But there wasn't a lot of that in Stoic philosophy. Almost all of it has nothing to do with their religions, with their paganism. It's all just practical stuff that you can apply to today's society. So the program, so I didn't like the steps requiring from one to the next to the next, and if you don't conquer one, you can't go to the next step. So I created marbles, which are the 5 topics, the 5 marbles of the marble program, and they're interchangeable. I mean, in the sense that you don't have to graduate from one to go on to the next one. I will say the most difficult one is the first one, which is reasoned choice. That's the one that's most abstract, and it's almost like it's a purple color. Each marble has a color, and it's purple because it's the most royal of them all, and it sort of rules above the others. But it doesn't really matter that much. You don't have to know about that one to learn about the other ones as well. And each marble has a different color to it because it's sort of, the color symbolizes what you're learning from the marble. So, for example, one of the marbles is emotional control, and that marble is red because one of the strongest emotions that lead back to relapse is anger. And we know that from experience, many of us. And it doesn't have to be relapsing on drugs or alcohol. It can be relapsing on just being a jerk to other people, or punching a wall and doing damage to your house, or probably to your wrist more than the house. And, part of the marble program, it's not just sobriety for addiction and for drugs and alcohol, but it's also the sobriety of being a good person, of maintaining virtue, and having the sobriety from unnecessary emotions and unnecessary thoughts, and the sobriety from having no meaning to life. So the 5 marbles that we teach in this program are, the first one is reasoned choice, and that one's all about understanding what's in your power and in your control, and I'll just keep it at that. And then understanding about like impressions and judgments and opinions, and the things that are in your control, and the things that are outside your control. The second marble is thought control, which is kind of similar. There's a lot of overlap with reasoned choice, but thought control goes more into virtues and vices and the types of thoughts that you should be having. Because as addicts, we all know that our thoughts can cause us to spiral. And if we don't have our thoughts straight, eventually our mind's going to lead us to where our thoughts are at, where our thoughts go. And if we're thinking about drugs all the time, like right now I'm looking at a Beyond Hello medical marijuana dispensary. So it's like a trigger for me every time I go by here. Although actually, I feel like I've gone so far from addiction that now my trigger for this is sort of like, it's not a trigger where I want to go in there and use anymore, but for me it's more like PTSD, a trigger of how dark my past was, where all I was doing was smoking weed all the time and doing dabs and vaping and just constantly high and not focusing on the right things. So it's almost like a PTSD for me at this point. Anyway, the third marble is the emotional control one, which is, that speaks for itself. The fourth one is um, finding purpose and meaning to our lives, because we know that if we don't have purpose or meaning and we're just at home all day unemployed doing nothing, then yeah, what else are you gonna do besides drink? And the fifth marble is spirituality, which I feel like I'm a little bit of a hypocrite right now after all the things I said earlier, but I don't, it's not a spirituality of believing in God. It's actually more of a spirituality of appreciating the world and our lives and humanity and who we are, that we even exist in the universe. And it's the spirituality of understanding life and death. And a big part of that one is death, because for many of us, the greatest fear is death. And that's a fear that we need to break and no longer have. Because if we can break the fear of death, then we won't fear much of anything at all. And the only thing left to fear is relapsing and falling back into your addiction all over again. So those five marbles, I think, are a very strong component to maintaining a sober life. And they're not just for addicts. Those five marbles, if you may notice, all five of those things really are important for just being successful and achieving whatever you want in life. Having meaning, controlling your emotions, thinking about the right things, working hard, being a virtuous person, having some spirituality about who you are as a human being. This stuff applies to everybody. Stoicism wasn't developed for addicts. There wasn't that much addiction back then. But I realized that it definitely applies to addiction, and addicts are people who need this stuff more than anyone else. So this program, we're going to be going through it on YouTube, and I know I'm doing these morning marble meetings with you guys to encourage you to stay sober and to chat about addiction and sobriety, and I hope that this is a good companion. These are good companion videos. But the main videos, which are in a playlist on YouTube of mine, which is, I guess, the Marble Program playlist, those are the ones with the thumbnails that I take a little more time to make. And it's just me preaching the topics in the marbles at the moment. And I've made about 5 or 6 videos already, and guess what? They are all about reasoned choice. And we're only about halfway done through the reasoned choice marble before we start going to thought control. So there's a lot of material for you guys to go through. And this stuff will be extremely helpful for you for everything. So those are the 5 marbles. And we're just beginning with the reasoned choice marble. In those long form videos, which I totally recommend for you guys to watch. There's also a podcast if you just want to listen to those main videos on Spotify. It's on there as well. So anyway, speaking of Alcoholics Anonymous, we say this prayer at every AA meeting, and it's the serenity prayer. And it goes something along the lines of, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And they don't really ever tell you the difference. You know, where do you get the wisdom to know the difference between what you can change and what you can't change? Well, Stoicism gives you that ability to know that difference. And the difference is that the things you can change are the things that are inside of you. They're your motivations, they're your actions and your decisions on what to act, how to act and what to act towards and what to do. And they're also your morals. And they're your opinions about things and your judgments about the impressions you're having at the moment. Those things are all inside of you. And they're in your control because no one can take them away from you. No one can reach into your head and say, hey, you're not allowed to think that anymore. Or you're not allowed to make that decision. Or you can't react that way. No one can control how you react to something. If someone slaps you, you can laugh about it, or you can have a complete mental breakdown about it. That's in your control. The slap is not in your control. Because the things that are not in your control are outside of your mind. Anything outside your mind can be taken from you, and it's not in your control. I'm driving right now in the car, and I don't know, the car could get a flat tire out of nowhere. That's not in my control. So do I have to get upset about it? Do I have to freak out about it and take a hit of my vape pen or something just to relax about it? That would be silly. It's out of your control, so it's like, whatever. If I was to be upset about anything, it would be about me having a poor reaction to something that's outside of my control. I can't control the weather right now. I can't control if I go to work right now and I get fired. But I can control whether or not I was doing everything correctly at work, making the right decisions, being a good person, and whether morally I valued taking care of my patients above anything else. Because I have a purpose. I have many purposes, but one of those purposes is to be a doctor, a family doctor to my patients. So when I'm at work, that's my purpose, and that's my number one priority at work. And if I'm doing that, and I'm being a good person, and making the right decisions, and practicing ethically, and being kind, and I get fired at my job, then that's out of my control. I did all the right things, so I can still sleep well at night. I'll just have to use that obstacle in my life to my advantage, look for other work somewhere, find somewhere else that's probably even going to be better. Or maybe I could do this full time. Not for a while, let's face it. That ain't happening for a while. Unless my 50 subscribers could somehow all toss me, some help over here. But if you want to actually help me out, and you know anybody else that is actively enjoying being sober and enjoying the effort that it takes to be sober, because there is some joy in accomplishing that. It's not an easy feat to become sober and to get rid of your addiction. And like any struggles, there's some joy in accomplishing that. That's the true dopamine hits that we need, is the dopamine hit of going through a struggle and getting out of it successfully. That's the healthiest high you could have. But if you know anybody that's enjoying the life of sobriety and getting rid of their addiction, or maybe not even enjoying it, but just need some more help, please share and let them know about these daily videos. Because I think they're going to be helpful for anybody that just needs something to listen to and a calming voice of somebody who's been through it as well, and somebody that has a different philosophy on staying sober and how to get sober. I haven't seen anything else like this out there. I've seen some other sober influencers or addiction help influencers, and I commend them all on what they're doing. It's fantastic that they're doing that. I just think that what I'm providing here is a different style, and it may be better for certain people. I think probably my style of sobriety, this Stoic philosophy teaching, is better for people that like to be stimulated intellectually. And according to my YouTube statistics, it's like mostly men that watch me, but I've made the program to be for women as well. It's not meant to be a masculine program. I don't blame my system for that. I think that in general, women tend to click on, influencers who are women. We all want to watch people that are more similar to us. So for me, I'm probably going to get a lot of viewers that look like nerds and have baby faces and are 5'6". But anyway, so I'm off to work, and I have a purpose there to do something special and to be a doctor for my patients. And if you're watching this in the morning, you might be going to your job, and you have a purpose there as well for whatever it is that you do. And nothing is beneath us. Even I, as a doctor, I'll help clean up the toilet if I have to, or plunge it when it gets clogged at the workplace. Nothing is beneath us as long as you're doing something good for society and helping people and helping society move the cogs of the machine. Then that's important. What's good for the hive is good for the bee, and if you're helping the hive, then you're helping yourself. And that this purpose that we have gives us something to work towards and get our minds away from addiction, because addiction is a purely selfish pleasure. You're just giving up what you can contribute to the world at any given moment, and instead you're just seeking hedonism, just looking for pleasure and fulfilling your dopamine hits. And after a while, if you do that enough, that becomes your baseline, and now you're just seeking drugs just to feel normal, which is awful and terrible. And then you don't know how you can go back to sobriety, because it's going to feel so bad. The addiction makes you feel, using drugs or drinking makes you feel good for a while, but once that becomes the baseline, then not drinking brings you down, and so you need to drink or use drugs just to maintain the normal level you would have been feeling if you were sober from the beginning. So while it may feel good to do drugs, that pleasure is actually a very bad thing for you, and it's going to give you discomfort down the line. But if you have an addiction and you stop using, you're going to feel very uncomfortable. You may go through withdrawal, and in general, it's going to be like hard to not use drugs because you're used to seeking that pleasure and getting that pleasure and that comfort from the drugs. So you're going to feel discomfort when you stop, but that discomfort is actually a very good thing for you. So you should find comfort in the discomfort of not using. And if you do that, then you will bring your baseline back to normal, and you're not going to be perfect when that happens, because that's when you got to start eating healthy, exercising, finding meaning in your life, sleeping well. But it's a very good start, and once you do that and you start doing the other things, then you start to feel so good normally that you can go to work at 7 in the morning. You just finished running, doing push-ups. You look good. You're clean. You're dressed well. You're feeling good about the day. And you're mostly feeling great that you're not using anymore. And that you've got a clean life. And you can be proud of that. You can have pride in that. Don't have pride in external things. Your money, the shoes you're wearing, that stuff doesn't matter, but you can have pride in who you are internally as a human being, because that stuff is in your control. Someone's going to scuff up your Jordans, and that's out of your control. You can't help that. But whether or not you react to it positively or negatively, that is in your control. And if you react to it well, then you can have pride in that. And you should have pride in that. So it's very good that we're all in this together. And if you guys are enjoying these car talks and you're getting anything out of them, then give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I hope to start a community here. And again, if my audio sucks, I will fix that. I want these to be as high quality as possible for you guys. And if that means that I have to spend, I don't know, like $250 on a new, proper new microphone, then I'll do that. But I'm trying to save money as much as I can. And right now I'm working with the old equipment that I have available to me. So hopefully this video wasn't cracking and popping and giving you guys audio issues. And if it was, then I'm going to fix it in time. And I'm going to keep improving these and getting them better and better. So enjoy watching me improve myself, because I'm in this with you guys too. I'm learning a lot just from doing this. They say teaching makes you a master. So I'm a little choppy right now when I'm explaining this stuff. I'm a little bit, coarse with my coursework here, but I will refine it over time. And I hope that my speaking gets better and that my ability to clearly explain these subjects becomes better. And hopefully in a couple years from now, people are going to be in wonder how someone can speak so well about Stoic philosophy. Well, it's from these early videos where I learn how to do it. So enjoy my improvements, and my improvements will rub off on you. So guys, have a wonderful, sober day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'll be doing this on the weekends, but if you guys really like these videos, then I will be doing them on the weekends. And I would like to provide some kind of daily content for you guys. So I love you. I'll see you guys next time.